Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. It's July 1937, almost into August, and we are heading towards the war. Hello, Spiraling. Haven't seen you in a little while. How you been? A mountain unit training advanced. That I think is okay. We're gonna just stop that because what else did we stop? Oh, where we oh boy, where did I stop? I don't know. Finland. Yes, you can have metal. Have all the metal you want. Nocta Amazonian, Night of the Amazons. Big party night in Munich. Give out prizes from the Brown Derby, the horse race. Lose a little bit of descent. In Germany, nice parades, nice parties, lots of beer, you know. A little bit of anti-Semitism thrown in for the fun of it, I guess. But otherwise. Okay, we've lost the effects of low popularity and now we're in medium, maybe from the parties there. Maybe that'll stick, maybe it won't. Cruiser damage, control advance, very nice. Okay. I guess we'll let that continue. We have a few, and because we're no longer under negative effects. Well, so dual purpose guns, that's nice. Yeah, let's do dual purpose guns. Oh, is it more? Even more? Even more? Yeah, I'll barely, not even a tenth of a point. And we'll do damage control though. Well, actually, you know, well, let's stop this. What we're gonna do here is move even more. That way we can maybe get some of the BICE filled out here in Germany. Free spies we have active some, but get some more in there. Wow, a lot of stuff just happened on the second, as it often does. Pause. Okay, well, start with Japan. Yes, okay, we'll trade with you for some oil. Low popularity. Okay, so we only briefly went up there. Now we're down. Imperial General Headquarters destroyed. Akagi lost. Akagi lost. What the hell just happened? I can't imagine anything that I've done with TRE that would have caused this. Have all their Imperial HQ and Kagi Kaga. I know our carriers, some of the others I don't recognize, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Okay, now that we have our Ritterschulens, this is don't need to bitch and moan, but yeah, we'll activate this unit now. Yeah, we don't need recruitment time or land organization if we don't get this. Currently, it's a 50-50 chance, but expand our automotive factory, sure. So I don't know what the hell they're thinking or what the hell happened there. Okay, we're again back to that. So, well, I think now is time for reinforcements. Yes, you may have energy. All right. Yeah. Mutsu lost. Yamashiro lost. I don't know. Did somehow the AI just... Because I can't... I don't know. It really is on. That is... We'll just stop that. And we're going to stop the purpose guns and cruiser damage control. Okay. AT or armored support brigades, yes. And reduce that down. A tsunami? Well, that would do it. I'm just wondering what the hell's going on here. Because, okay, they're at war with Republic of China, the cliques, various, So I can't imagine what either air power or would they no, they would just go to see if like they were all here and that was taken. I can't imagine either China having enough air power or China having enough naval power to do all that. Yeah, that's according to from what I'm understanding. That's because those are loss events. Because I'm just coming over to click here and here. See, if you lose some of these political leaders here, like William Keitel, Yodel, the actual headquarters, there will be loss events here that will go, oh shit, Germany must really be effing up, and if the Hitler unit here dies, again, this will represent the everything effing up and whatnot. If some of the people who instituted some of these loss events really like to role play, and they would move the headquarters, out to, where Hitler was for the Battle of France, and then move them to the Wolfschutz out here. And they really they like to move them around. So that's why they created this. I go, cool, fine, no problem. Doesn't hurt anything. I think mostly the AI keeps their versions of whatever these are away from the front lines. So this is a political leader. So if you lose this political leader unit, and you can see this unit really doesn't have any, like, it has a little bit of soft attack, a little bit of hard attack, a little bit of air because of what this is. So yeah, it's sort of defending here if you come in and attack it. But you can see movement. It really basically immobilizes this unit from anything but strategic movement. So you don't really want to move these around too much, and that's how they would move around. Yamamoto retired and took the fleet with him. Well, that if he did that, that might have saved Japan from losing World War II, because they wouldn't have attacked the Western Allies, and they just would have stayed with the war in China. That might have been the smartest thing, Timothy. That would have been a thing. So I can't. I don't know why the AI would disband the unit. I mean, it might. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. And I can't imagine China because China historically, and I think they're sort of set up that way. They had a few cruisers. They weren't very good. They had a few destroyers, and they were probably okay for 1920s destroyers or whatever. And And they actually fought and, inflicted damage. I don't know if they actually sunk any Japanese ships, but early, at this stage, fairly early on, they fought some battles up and around here. There actually was at least 2, if not 3 fleets for China. And when I say that, let me rephrase it. There was, and I don't remember it for sure, there was at least 2, if not 3 navies for China. And what that sort of means is that the Navy that was up here had its own sort of training schools and its own ships, and the Navy that was down here had sort of its own training schools and its own ships. Not many, but some. And they basically ignored each other. I mean, they were both like the Navy of China, both in it, but they sort of had their own budgets, and if they could buy or have locally produced ships, they would do them. But they really didn't, if the officer from one of the other, from down here showed up north, they would go, yeah, who are you? What are you doing here? You're supposedly in command? No, go away. They were very sort of different organizations, but some of the vessels from up here fairly early on, because China eventually comes in and takes over here, escaped down here and sort of refugee down to here for a while and get integrated here locally. So the remnants do sort of combine up, but they're never really very well organized, and they're sort of their own. I mean, they're all officially one Navy, but they're their own things. And I may be slightly overstating it, but not by much. And so, yeah, they had things like that, but ships, and of course they had aircraft, but trying to think if I remember if they ever damaged it. I don't think they ever sunk any Japanese ships at sea, or in port or anything. They did do some bombing runs and whatever, but I don't know that they were quite capable of much. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't some good Japanese or Chinese pilots. There were, just not many of them, and they often didn't have good working aircraft and that kind of thing. Oh, we're just talking about how Japan lost all of its, or a lot of its fleet somehow. Okay, Totenkopfstandarte creation important this event. Yes, you want this. You don't want to disband these units. Yes, this is a standard Black Ice event that I hated the photo that they used, so I made my own and just named it as theirs. Yes, we want that. Anti-air upgrade. Yes. Yes, we want. That's a picture of reenactors, not a World War II picture. I don't use reenactors' photos knowingly. Could be by mistake, but not knowingly. From my mod. So I don't know what happened to the Japanese Navy. Hell, maybe the Japanese army sunk it. Okay, trains ran on time. Congo lost. What are they doing? What the hell are they doing? Is losing those ships. I mean, it doesn't sound smart, but the only thing I can sort of imagine is somehow they are. Well, maybe they're trying some naval invasions. Because I'm looking at, because we don't have any real good look in because they're not part of our faction. We can just see that China. Oh no, they've taken these from China, and China has pushed into there from their puppet, and their puppet has pushed into here. So that's all I can really tell. Okay, we give them money for. Okay, we can do that. We're getting our reinforcements to our units. Good. Some of these units had been almost non-existent strength, but now they're getting some forces. Okay. Can you show us the list? Keep asking for these things that I never look for. I don't know that I can see, because I'm not part of their war. Because they're their own war right now, so I don't think I can see that. Unless you can describe to me where I'm supposed to click to see it. Because we can go entire conflict, but I'm not at war, so I don't see that, I don't think. Because I know this is where I can see some of the stuff for myself. Oh, they're heading towards California? Well, that would do it. Better target than China. Well, maybe. Yeah, I don't think we have that for this. At least not now. Once I get into the war, I might be able to see it, but small warship. Okay. That's just something that I just never care, stats about the game, and I know a bunch of people really do care about it. Losses versus, our lot, how many of German soldiers versus how many dead versus how many, Soviet soldiers or something like that. I've just never been interested in that, knowing that about my games. It's just me. It's not that other people are wrong for wanting that, but just not into it. So I don't know how to dig too deep into these things, even though I played thousands of hours of the game. I'm more interested in goals and objectives and how well I think I did them. No, Dietrich, no, there's no you can't send a military attaché. You can't send volunteer forces. So there's really, outside of getting them into my faction, or if I had the range or a friendly port that I could get to. So unless I can put a ship off of it, like here, the Deutschland. Let's send the Deutschland over to here. We're just going to move down. See, now we can go in and sort of look a little bit at Spain here because it's within range. Reich Bonn Inspector General Fritz Todt. That. Oh, I may not have moved the. Oh, okay. Special Forces Unit Combined. It's nice. That's supposed to have an event picture. Why doesn't it? Okay. Did it not get moved here or something? I gotta remember to look into that. They're really nice pictures. What's this again? Okay, Special Forces Combined Arms. That's down here. 39. Yeah, we'll stop that. Let's come over to Blitzkrieg. Yeah, let's do tactical focus. We took a list of all capital ships sunk with reason of their sinking. Release a carrier to destroyers. You see AIs. Eternal shame. I don't know that. Well, the Hoi 3 AI does not have much shame, I will say. Yes, you can have its combat AI, or it is eternally shamed so bad that. So you can see as we're moving along the coast here, we're getting a little bit. Yes, we'll do some research there for ships. Fox Sport, name of the magazine. That's Max Schmeling. Cover there. Just trying to give you a little taste of what it was like to be inside the. Okay, we're back to doing battleships. So what we're going to do here is upgrades. Special shock. Special shuttles. Okay. Oh, it's over here. German and its unpronounceable words. Such a pleasant language. Now, this is actually quite historical, and I think they even sent the Deutschland over here as part of the neutrality patrols that were going along. Germany sent some vessels. Britain and France sent a lot. I think it was maybe the Deutschland that was damaged in the fighting. There was an attack, I think by the Republicans on it. Like 20 sailors or something died. Okay, yes. SA Sport, Czechoslovakia, reinforcement chance, cool. And so they patrolled around. Now, of course, the Germans sort of coordinate. I don't know if "turn the blind eye" would be the appropriate term, or specifically like, oh, hey, we have an armed ship, or hey, German neutrality patrol. Make sure you're not here. Well, why? Well, just make sure you're not here, when the German shipments were coming in to arms. But they would patrol off the Republican areas and try to intercept armed shipments for the neutrality patrol in Spain, going to the Republicans. Okay. Direct fire unit, combined arms. Let's come here and look. Yes, armored HQ, so let's do that. Well, it would be better if we stayed over here. We're going to watch what's happening. There we go. If we had something with the range, and I don't think we do, to get all the way over to the Pacific right now, we could do this to watch what was going on. We now have 13 automotive factories instead of 12, and the Horthy Cup in Hungary, and water polo. Germany is number 2. Surprise, surprise, Hungary got number 1. Let's see if we can. Well, does Japan want? I have a little bit of extra money. Would you want to buy some supplies from us? No. Okay, didn't think so, but figured I would give it a shot. They have a little bit of extra money and a need for supplies, so let's sell them some. At night we can't see anything. Day comes along, we get a little bit of a bonus at seeing stuff in there. Britain. We give them money for rare materials. No, thank you. We'll try to buy it from a more friendly power. Artillery unit training, nice. Okay, yeah, and I brought the others command. Stop that for the moment. Okay, we still haven't gotten any spies, so what we're going to do, or extra spies, so let's increase this a bit more. And no. Soviet Union, yes. Just because if we start a war. Could you send plane? No, there's nowhere to land Beam Slam, so I cannot fly over neutral territory. So I can't fly, so I can't hover over anything, and I would have to land at a. Okay, pause. It's just a weird thing. We can see they've invaded down here at Shanghai, which don't know if they did in August 37, but they did eventually, yes, invade there too. So I don't know what happened. Did they have a bunch of submarines or something, or a bunch of like small boats, motor torpedo boats or something? I don't know. but yeah, they lost a lot. So yeah, there's no real way. We don't have a colony. We don't have military access. I mean, we can look at this. We could ask for transit rights. Oh, they say likely. Okay, so we'll. Okay, they refused. Okay, so they refused. If they'd given us transit rights, we might be able to bring in some fighters or something and then put them up into the air over the sea. Not over Chinese occupied, but that might have, or just we could have based out of a Japanese port and put the ships out to look around. Okay, yeah, we'll take this. Incendiary bombs, okay, but I think that's the one and done, and we're moving over to that. Yes, they did. Hello, Federico. No. Um, the SA divisions are a white elephant. They eat lots of supplies, but don't get rid of them. Don't get rid of them. You don't want them to upgrade. If when the war comes, because what happens is there later on, it's either in 38 or 39, there's an event that will, if all of these units exist, all of the units or enough of them, I check for, I don't know, let's just say a quarter of them. If the right units still exist, then there'll be an event that fires that will remove all the SA units and give you back weaker SA units, but also give you back a big amount of manpower. So we'll give a big boost of manpower, and that's meant to represent what really did happen. Is a lot of SA men, the younger ones, were drafted into the army. And now they may be drafted in the army in 1936 or 1937, but then they're not like drafted in and stay for years. They're drafted in at this point and stay for like 6 months or a year or whatever it was, and then they go into reserve status. So it's sort of, are they in, are they not? But once you're really gearing up for war, the number of SA units doesn't change. They, as far as I know, actually I think they grow, but there's very little research. I got all the books I could find on them at the time when I did this, and since then I've read another book, but it doesn't give me the details anymore. But most of the units still exist. They just become hollow shells of themselves for numbers. They still have hundreds, if not even, instead of, this is an arbitrary number here because these Standarten, SA Standarten are of different sizes depending on local manpower. They get to a certain size, and then eventually, well, maybe we should click over. No, keep clicking on the wrong ones. Again, still clicking on wrong ones. Am I okay? No, come on. And if I only put the Ritter Standarte if there was one there. Okay, see now this one in this location this is actually historical. That close to this location, as I found. And again, for those of you who don't know, I did all this research by there's a phone book that's in existence. The way I did this is I found online photographs of an original phone book, and so they gave like a place name like Hamburg, and then see, here's one that has in Hamburg there's the 11th, the 12th, and the 13th SA Standarten. And then they gave the phone number, so I knew where they were. They were at I think it was like it was like a 35, somewhere like the 35 to 37. I forget the exact year. This phone book that I found. So I don't know how strong each of these Standarten were. If there get to be enough in a particular area like Hamburg, they would create another Standarten. But if it was small enough, well, they just have a weaker Standarten. Or if it's just a little bit bigger, they'd have an overstrength one if there wasn't enough to have two. So yeah, this is all taken from a phone book. And so I found, and it would give things like Ritter Standarten and 63, 62 matching up here. So I went in and used, that's how I was able to do the research for this, because there is no good printed, modern printed resource that tells what the SA was doing in the late 30s after Ernst Röhm is killed. So, because I play historical, I do the yearly let them eat cake, because that to me matches the most realistic, or matches history the closest that I can. But if you want to do the sort of send in the thugs event and either get more units that way, or if you want to do the police garrison event at the beginning of the year, you'll want to use these guys to keep your revolt risk down. If you want to, once the war starts, and there was a little bit of using the SA as combat for the invasion of Poland, really only, in the initial invasion of Poland, and they were used a little bit in combat for anti-partisan work in the territory up here, and there was a little bit of use in some foreign occupations. Now they did set up a new, it's not in the game, a new SA Standarten for Warsaw, but it was just for Germans living in Warsaw, during the war once it occupies there. So they are used a little bit for foreign occupation, but mostly they're sort of a home partisan militia thing. They're not good units. They're not meant to be good fighting units. They do have suppression of 9.5, some air defense, and it seems awful. I didn't create these numbers. These numbers aren't me. I didn't create the numbers. I didn't create these units, but so they're okayish, anti-partisan type stuff. So you can use them in foreign territories if you need to. Thanks, Arno. Yeah, well, and so this, I think it's this level here. The Obergruppen was actually removed by 36. I think that's what my research shows. The Obergruppen was removed, and so it would go straight from the upper headquarters to what was the SA Gruppe, more or less equivalent to the Corps. But I used, again, from other research, and I think it was, I'm just going to say 34, but it was removed by the time 36 by the time this starts. But so I think it was either 34 or 35. The SA Obergruppen was removed as a thing, and so it just went directly to the SA Gruppe. But I left it in just because of the sort of hierarchical situation here with the game. Now, of course, and I'm talking about, you don't want to remove any of these units, but you can reorganize this. If you don't want you don't want these sort of brigades all parceled out. You want to create units with them, larger ones. You can do that, just as long as you don't delete these units, including the headquarters. You don't want to delete any of the units. You can reorganize it. You can move them around. I've moved a few just to the border here early on. You can use them as things. It's meant to be a check for the second event. Tap-in is one, to punish you if you just delete all these units. You won't get your manpower back, because you're meant to have this penalty, if you will, because it's historical. And it's also meant that if you go to war, say in 1938, over Czechoslovakia, and you go to war with France and Britain at that time, or some other war breaks out and you start losing these units, well, it's sort of figuring, well, you're using them in combat, you're not going to have them replaced to weaker ones. So if you're playing more or less historical, meaning not going to war and not doing anything, you will get most of your manpower back that I take away at the start of for them, and you'll end up with even weaker SA units to do whatever you want with. Basically, they're meant to be sort of emergency use, if you're being invaded or something like that. Later on, because figure all these units here again, they're sort of gutted by the war. The Ritter SA units are basically, to the best of my knowledge, basically are removed in that all the horses are sent off to fight in the war. Eventually, I mean, not day one, but as time goes on, the horses disappear. The men are the Ritter SA, or Ritter Standard and the Ritter SA. Most of them, the young ones at least, are already drafted into the army. The older ones are still around, of course, but without most of their horses. The older guys in the SA brigades are still around, and these guys just sort of are the ones that are called up and become the Volkssturm units. They're renamed. They may be, still in their SA uniforms, going off at the end of the war. When they, do like Fortress Breslau here, they set that up as a fortress, or here Königsberg Fortress kind of thing. It includes what if these the Standarten were still there, because sometimes they do shift them around a bit, but they're just turned into the Volkssturm and then thrown other non-SA, the guys from the I forget the main what is it, the RLB or whatever the main veterans organization was from World War One. So all the World War One veterans are put in there, and the SS home dudes, the guys that are back doing evil things at home, they're put into the that, and just other people are scraped up. So yeah, they end up being used in the war, but not specifically as SA units, but as the Volkssturm at the end. Direct unit fire control. Direct fire control unit. Blah 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 blah. Let's get redundant. Okay. And so, especially the first, because this, here it does have, you can see down there, SAST and SA Brigade, increase the organization, but you want to turn off all of the upgrades for it because, and you can just do that by selecting this and then hitting that, which I've done, because again, these will all be removed and replaced later. Now, if you want to use the second version of these, then yeah, leave that unchecked and have the upgrades happen to them. Okay, okay, we're starting to get some spies, but I'm going to do even more shifting to some spies. We're going to try to get a pool of them, something. Okay, oh, maybe a bit more, so we can. There we go. You would think something like the SA would have a lot of information, and there's just a handful of books that cover the SA post Ernst Röhm's death. Before Ernst Röhm, there's a bunch of stuff, when he's in charge and they're being used to come to power. But afterwards, it becomes hard to find the stuff. And even one of the books I read, they give up talking about the SA, and they talk about how the ambassadors to Serbia, Bulgaria, Romania, and Hungary are all SA leaders, just sort of as throwing them a bone. And they talk about they talk about Victor Luntz a little bit, but then I'm forgetting the guy right now who takes over after Victor Luntz. Victor Lutz dies in an automobile accident. He's going out with his family. Okay, we want food. The head of the SA. Hey, hey guys, family, we're hungry. Yeah, let's go forage in the forest for food. That's what they were driving out to the countryside to go look for food. Foraged in the go hunt animals or pick berries or whatever it was, and they die in a car accident doing that. His replacement is actually a guy who really starts to organize things up a bit better. And they talk about him, and talking about the Field Herrenhalle division and how that is sort of an SA-sponsored unit. And so they talk about that in the book, but much of the other SA information just isn't talked about later on, even by books that sort of are covering it as you go on. No, Rhaegar, that's not the case. They still were important and they were still needed. That's what I've come to learn. And they are still a massive control element for Germany internally. They are the primary internal control unit. It is not the SS, maybe the police as much as the SA, but the SA are still being heavily used. I think it's become unglamorous to study them. And the more I've looked into them, see, it just, like Rhaegar, the big thing, and if I read and talk about all the events, and if you read them, cover it, the SA is heavily involved in training the army, or maybe I should say heavily involved in training men that are going to become soldiers, and not just SA men. They have training programs set up all over Germany. One, that whole Ritter SA, they basically take over all of the horses in Germany, basically. And I'm not saying get them into their, take over control, and in the sense that if you want to breed horses, not if you're a farmer with a horse, but if you want to breed horses, you need to be a member of the SA. Now, these guys that become members of the SA probably never buy a uniform, so they never own a uniform. But if you're involved in this, and the Ritter SA is actually sort of its own sort of somewhat separate branch, and it's setting up a horse breeding program to increase the numbers of suitable horses for military. So good, strong horses. So they're working on that. And and it's sort of weird because of the Ritter SS gets control of just a few regions for doing a similar sort of thing. But it's like 80% or 90% of Germany is for horse breeding authority, or however you want to call it. But they're managing all that. It's done by the SA, or the Ritter SA. And with that, there's a major horse training effort to train men not just to ride, but how to take care of and manage horses. Well, all this goes and helps the army. And this is all going on even as the war is happening. It's still very functional. So they're doing that. And like I say, they're training up men. The only, to the best of my knowledge, the only party, meaning Nazi party badge, that's allowed to be worn on your military, whether it's Luftwaffe, Navy, or Army uniforms, is the SA sports badge, and it comes in 3 degrees, bronze, silver, and gold. But you don't have to be an SA man to get that. You just have to go to an event, and there's 3 different levels of qualifications. You do different things and go through and qualify to get it. March so far, run a certain amount of distance in a certain amount of time, and whatever. There's these athletic achievements, and if you get these athletic achievements, and you do it under the go to an SA held event, under their auspices, they will issue this SA sports badge. So you don't have to be a member of the SA. You just have to go to this and you get that, and that is the only political SA, because you can't wear your party badge or your other political badges on your military, your army uniform. The only one that you can wear is that SA sports badge. And one of the things they're teaching in the SA is grenade throwing. So they're teaching people how to throw grenades, and some of the people they're teaching are the Hitler Youth. Some of the people they're teaching are the Reich Arbeitsdienst, which is sort of the after Hitler Youth, the work party. And so they're teaching these organizations, so they're doing that. The SA is heavily involved with after an air raid, they're the ones. One of the major elements that goes out around and looks for downed pilots, both enemy and friendly, because sometimes friendly, like a fighter or whatever, will be shot down and a pilot may be injured or just parachuted in and down and help them out. But also looking for downed enemy pilots. They're used to look for escaped prisoners of war, like the Great Escape and other sort of things. They're put out manpower. there's a big effort as the war goes on to evacuate the cities of non-essential personnel, particularly women with children, single women with children. And as the war is going on, as more and more, because these women are not, well, one, they want to maybe get them out to do some agricultural work, but it's really, a lot of them are not ones that are working in a war effort, in a factory, but they have children, so they're, for the Nazi ideology, protect the woman and raise lots of kids. That's really super important. But you don't need to be in a city that is being bombed. And if you can get them out of the city, you can also get them to where maybe the food is grown, so you're not having to transport as much food to the city as well. So it's sort of for their own protection. But after a while, large numbers of the women just come back to their home city because they get fed up of being in the countryside, and they bring their children back. And for a while, one of the main elements that are standing around at railroad stations or at the edge of the cities, checking everybody's passes. And if you have a pass that says you're supposed to be down here in Coburg, but you're showing back up here in Leipzig, they're going, nope, go back home. Eventually, the Germans give up on this because it just becomes overwhelming. Too many of them just, after somewhat forcibly being sent to the countryside, stay there for a while, give up on it, and just go back to the city. And eventually just sort of overwhelmed, and they just sort of really stop enforcing it as a actual thing. And the the SS and the police are doing this too, but manpower-wise, it is heavily the SA. Not exclusively, but they're heavily responsible for this. So the SA is still a very important and very massive functional element of German society. It's just not reported on it. And so we just don't know what's going on well. And this is what I've got from my limited research. It's just the glamorous SS because it's, the combat guys that are out there, the Waffen SS, or it's the evil SS running the camps that gets all the attention because they're either super evil or they're super glamorous or they're glamorous evil, whatever you want to call it. They get all that attention, and of course the Army and the Navy and the Air Force gets that attention. But the SA is another major element of the Nazi state that continues until the closing days of the war, and then it just sort of gets morphed as, part of the Volkssturm, where I went in and I created a bunch of these SA leaders, probably most of them that are here in the game. I'm trying to see here. And you can sort of see here, and I looked at the original photograph, which was often larger this, and I tried to look and see what his ribbons were. Not so much to identify, I don't know this guy has ribbons on it, I really can't tell from here, I don't think so. But if he had a lot of, or a fair amount of World War I ribbons, this guy probably doesn't, because here, I gave him some better stats, because a lot of these leadership elements were World War I veterans and veteran officers from the Army, not just political hacks. Some of the where I could see on the uniform, some of them are just political hacks that, well, they may have been in the Army, but they didn't necessarily do anything, or maybe much in the war. Or I couldn't see something on there, like maybe the photo didn't have his chest area to see. But I went in and tried to use that as, oh, well, this guy's a little bit better, so give him a little higher stats, maybe a little better something on him. Not making them super soldiers or anything like that, but these guys would have been the combat vet. A lot of these local commanders would have been combat veterans of World War I, often officers or NCOs, and they're now in charge of a battalion of Volkssturm. Yeah, they haven't been fighting in World War II and things change, but if you're defending your home city, World War I experience is probably pretty good. So I sort of looked at it. Sounds like they were turned into certification organization military. Yes, that's exactly at Ragar. There's a lot of that's going on. So the SA is important. Now, and there are also there's all kinds of campaigns going on. There's the winter relief campaigns every year to raise money and other things to help, whether it's the poor or later as the war goes on, collect furs or whatever, winter clothing for soldiers. There's Well, hey, coming up in 1938, there's Kristallnacht. You need the SA to go tear down all those Jewish synagogues and burn a few buildings. They're used in that. They're used in all kinds of other intimidation tactics leading up to that and after that against the Jews and other people. They're used as for the various election campaigns that happen. And there are, including like the campaign dealing with the Austrian Anschluss and several other votes that happen. They're out there campaigning for the Nazi Party, and so there's a lot of activities the SA are still doing. It's just not well recorded, as like the SS is. Some of it is that the records are destroyed. I recently found out for the Luger, the Luger pistol, all the records were destroyed, probably in World War II, but at least all the ones for DWM, Deutsches Munition, or Deutsches Werk and Munitions for Lugers, and all we have left to this day are the ones for Munich. Or down in Bavaria, I should say, the Bavarian records. And they have just sort of notes, not the details, but they would just sort of the record, oh yeah, this trials happened and they picked this or whatever. I found that out for the development of the Luger. And so just because, there was Bavaria was sort of had its own sort of internal different army. So they were doing some of their own testing, but they were also getting notes. So we don't even have the details and development of Luger pistol because they were destroyed. The main central file copies were destroyed in the war, and to this day no one has them. So they have what Bavaria kept, the Bavarian government / military at the time kept, but the sort of Prussian ones, this is before World War I, those are gone. So there's a lot of records that are just gone. But even where we do have them, they may have a lot more information than the one phone book that I found online, but they're just in archives, and I don't have the ability to go drive around Germany, and I don't speak German enough to go look at it. No one else has done it and then published it either online or in a book that I could buy. And I did buy a few books to research, not just this, but other elements of the SA. Okay, infiltration tactics. Get back to playing. Okay, 32. Yeah, we're going to keep going. Fighter pilot training advanced. Let's see what year that. No, that's down here. Okay, 38. We're going to stop that for the moment. Yeah, let's come to air superiority. No, let's do interception tactics. We're going to start with that one. So yeah, it's just an interesting topic. I find it. We would give them money for crude oil. Okay. How much we don't know about World War II. And not that it can't be found out, but just we as those who read books. Not those who write them. Those are different people, but those of us who read books just only have limited sources. Underway replenishment, I think that is here. Good. Things that you sort of think or presume that we just would know. Or you can go pick up a book on it and know it, read it, but we don't have that. Okay, a lot of 37. Let's unrestricted warfare. Well, those are already pretty well advanced. Well, let's do destroyer crew training. That sounds like a good one to start. Have you asked the German Army archives about the SA stuff? No, I've not. When I started researching some of that, I still had my editor. She helped me out some with it. She was German. But she didn't find anything much more when she was doing it. And she was just researching online as far as I know. She got me some information, but trying to do it. I found the phone book on one of the major yeah, forums for German army research. But I don't know why the army would have any information hardly, on the SA unless they're the ones that capture or kept it to this day, because it's a political thing and not a military thing. Okay. Okay, we've lost low popularity, so now we're back up to medium. Good. Expand our light aircraft factories. Nice. Königsberg. Okay, good. We're going to put even more into... Well, I want to get a pool of spies. I know I keep saying it, but yes, I do want to do that. Okay, back to here. Getting through much of that, so now do that. Sometimes things don't work out. We're going to save this. Oh yes, no, well, I know there's the Bundeswehr archives for photographs, and some of those have been scanned in, and they're really nice digital stuff. And I agree that probably most of it is not online, but I don't know who would keep the records for it, for the essay. I know the Bavarian government claims to own certain Nazi properties. Meaning that they claim that they're the legal owner of it, like copyright holder, shall we say, copyright holder of it, and they license some of the stuff out through some of the photographs to be used out through Almay, I think is it. They're associated with Getty Images, Getty Photos licensing. And if you're using the stuff, you're supposed to pay Almay money that then goes to the Bavarian government. Now, I'm an American citizen, and the American citizens have captured those same set of photographs, and they're in the Smithsonian archives. And since they're in our archives, we at least claim that we get to use them without paying any rights. So, as war conquest booty, whatever, and so they're in the public domain in America. And I use some of the stuff. I'm waiting for whether it's Almay or their associate Getty to try to come after me for money, and then I want to see the court case where the Bavarians want to profit from Nazism, trying to charge money for Nazism and make money off Nazis. I wonder how that case would go if they ever tried to sue me to collect money for photographs that they claim to hold the copyright to. That would be an interesting case. But yeah, I use some of the stuff that they claim ownership of, the copyright ownership of. I don't know. Supposedly, I haven't. I say supposedly because I just read accounts of it. Some of the archives that are held by various German governments, and I mean by that by things like the Bavarian government or different state governments or the central German government, different government agencies, they restrict who they let in to come in and do research. And that's in a way common in that they want to, because I remember many years ago to get, to be able for me to get in to use the British Library and get a proper pass for it. I got sort of a temporary one because I just sort of showed up there. I was a college student. Go, hey, yeah, I want to be able to come and do research at the British Library. And they sort of were you supposed to go in that office over there? Okay, fine. And sat down with the guy. Yeah, I'm here studying in Britain, and I wanted to do some research here. Well, we normally only let master's studies people or PhDs or whatever come in and study here. I mean, they're sort of just don't let, at least at that time. It was in the original building, where they have the desks, the same reading desk place where Karl Marx sat, or where Sherlock Holmes sat. Yeah, I know Sherlock Holmes is a myth, but in one of the stories they specified what desk he sat at. to do his research in the British Library. It was in that original building. Is where, I mean, I didn't sit at either of those desks, but in the original building there, that I know they've moved it. Now the original building is still there. I don't know that it's used anymore. I don't know the entrance requirements, but they're supposed to be, some. But they were sort of like, well, okay. And I didn't just travel just to do that. I, study in the British Library. I was traveling and studying in Britain, and they were sort of, okay, we'll give you, we'll give you an American college student who's studying history. We'll give you a temporary pass because I was going to be there for it was like for 6 months. The pass. I said I was going to be there for 3 or 4 months. Okay, we'll give you a temporary one. So they gave me a temporary library card. I know I have it somewhere, for the British Library at the time, way back when. So yeah, most libraries, like government libraries for serious research, are a bit restrictive, meaning they just won't let anybody off the street into their original one-of-the-kind documents. But my understanding with a lot of the German archive stuff dealing with the Nazis, they're even more sensitive as to who they let in to study it. But a lot of that stuff, like as I was sort of saying, is sitting over in American archives. And a lot of the stuff is sitting in Russian archives, and some of it's sitting in French, and some of it is sitting in British archives. So it's around the world in various archives. I don't know what is where. I don't know if I would, probably if, pushed hard enough, I could get into to study any of the American stuff. If I was traveling to Washington, D.C. area, which are, the Smithsonian Institution is set. Now they have the sort of public museums that people go through for the tours or whatever, but then they have research stuff that you can get in and keep, and that's the people, I think they're the ones that oversee the National Archives and for the World War II stuff, and for the stuff that's non-classified. Well, they also hold classified stuff, but obviously you got to get special permission or classified or get stuff declassified for that. But just the other stuff, I don't even know how well it's cataloged, some of the stuff. And it's in boxes and whatnot. I could probably do it, but I'm not traveling. I live in California. I'm not traveling back to Washington, D.C. to do research. Sorry. And like I say, I don't do enough German, and I don't speak, so I'd have to pay a researcher to do more, and that's just not in the budget. You can, of course, support my Patreon channel, and if I get enough, maybe I'll start paying a researcher. But yeah, that's sort of the how it sort of goes for research, and it's a lot to do original research. I did some, like I say, in the British Library, but actually ended up doing more in the Edinburgh Castle Library. Up there, they have a library in the castle that deals with Scottish military history, and did some research there with original source materials, 18th century materials. Talked to a few other people, was doing some other research, going around and talking to some people that had some documents and looking some stuff up for the 18th century Jacobite stuff way back when. So I've had a little bit with this. And I tell you, it was hard enough trying to read 18th century style writing with 18th century style spelling, like how they like to use F's instead of S's in the middle of words. So if it was if the first letter in the word was S, they would write an S, but if they wrote an S later on in the word, they would use an F. Crazy. Yeah, but yeah, so, and that's difficult enough. German would be another whole difficulty. And this is before modern German, or this was, the Nazis are the ones who create modern German. I keep meaning to have a list of the words that were used, but it's gleichend or something like that, means to make everything the same. There was a lot of that going on in the Nazis. Get standardized spellings, because before the Nazis showed up, you could have different standardized spellings in different parts of Germany. Like in Prussia versus Bavaria, you may spell a word differently officially, in a dictionary, not just randomly. But it was the Nazis that set up the unified spellings for words and other things outside of the dictionary, outside of word usage. But they were trying to, unify or make like laws the same in all areas of Germany, and not have different laws in different city states and whatnot. And so that was all done under the Nazis, for good or for bad, but they were the ones doing that. And so trying to deal with German before that, the German usage prior to that happening. And yeah, they were the ones doing it, but they didn't get it completed. And of course, the people that grew up before that and were educated before that were still using their earlier spellings and earlier word usages too. I like to save maps, and there's like one map I saved. I think it's like the word for pencil in France. Like 70% of France uses one word, 20% of France uses a different word, and 10% of France uses a third word or something like that, according to this map, for like pencil or whatever, or pen or something like that. And it's things sort of like this, and it sort of locally exclusively uses one word or the other. Not that they might not nowadays know at least the standard, the 70%, but colloquially they use a different word. Well, there's things like that going on in German before the Nazis show up. Even use different words or meanings or whatever. So it's complicated. I don't even want to go near it as a primary researcher, as much as I can avoid it. Phone books aside. Okay, we're going to end this episode here. I want to thank you all for hanging out with me. I really do appreciate those that make it this far. Thank you, everyone. I really love you guys.